Why do so many Muslim men and women and boys and girls, including the age 10, watch so much of these material?
Okay.
Number of years ago, there was no internet. Number of years ago, if you wanted to watch one of those movies, you had to go and rent a cassette, VHS, yeah, the big, yeah. And your wife or your husband will be in the car, and when you go to the video shop, well, it has to be hiding. You don't pray, nobody sees you. And then you have to pay money. Today, you can just click on the internet. It's a quick thing, without any cost, because the internet is paid every month, no additional money. And then it is anonymous. Nobody might see. And then the door is closed. In addition to that, a lot of children from the age 0 sleeps by themselves. Number of years ago, you grew up big, sleeping with your father and your mother. But in a lot of quarters, as the baby comes home, the crib is present. And all of the technology hooked up to the internet. So the baby has access to internet. Consequently, pornographic material. Sometimes the doors are closed. It's very easy. My dear believing brothers and sisters, is this something dangerous for the Muslim? This is a Muslim audience. Is this something dangerous? Certainly not. Some people will argue. But as Muslims, this is not in accordance with the Quran and the Sunnah. Even if you look at a lot of famous psychologists, they will tell you that it goes against mainstream psychology. A young boy or young girl looking at porn, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, matures before his or her age. The age of maturity long ago was 15, 16, 17, 18. Today, the age of maturity has lowered. You see children, 8, 7, 9, 10, with their body parts maturing. A lot of research says it has a lot to do with looking at these materials. Because when you look at it with your eyes, it sends something to the brain, a neurotransmitter, and it causes a chemical called dopamine to start, like, expanding and multiplying. And this chemical causes arousal. You are 9 and you are 10 and you are 11, and you are being aroused. You are 9 and 10 and 11 and you are being aroused. So what happened to your body parts at such a tender age? There are some statistics which say that watching porn is responsible for a lot of teenage pregnancy. Because when your body starts developing from a younger age, the urge for the age for sexual activities become ever evident. And that's the reason why today in some primary schools in Trinidad, children are sexually active. Primary school. The porn industry is a multi-trillion-dollar industry. It's a money-making industry. Millions and trillions of dollars go into it. And therefore, they have the best lighting, the best actors, maybe beautiful ones with the Coca-Cola shape. Because it's a business. They will pick and choose their clientele and their actors. When you look at those type of material as a young man or a young woman, and you get married, there is this expectation that your wife or your husband look somewhat like that girl or those girls, or that boy or those boys. And I had a situation where husband is complaining about the wife's body size and her ability to do this and to do that. You place a high expectation in your wife and your husband, and when it is not met, it creates a problem and a serious problem. So what you see might look very marvelous, very dynamic, very intriguing, but in reality, with the marriage might be a bit different. It's nice that you are listening, standing up in front. It's always nice. You're able to reach people. If you have been looking, or anybody have been looking at pornographic material over and over again for a long period of time, you have become addicted. You're going to say, Pastor, no, I just watch it in between now and again. Maybe twice for the month. You know, for 50 years. The word addiction and the word of obsession has changed. Addiction is an obsession. For a person who says, well, I drink twice a week, and I drink now and again, meaning twice for the week, twice for the month, 5 years passed and I didn't stop. Some eminent psychologists in Canada said that if you continue doing it, no matter how infrequent it might be, and you continue doing it, and you never stop for a prolonged period of time, you are an addict. Fellas? An addiction falls under ODC, OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. So every time you pick up the phone, you tell her, well, you go ahead, go by mother for the night. Go ahead, you go ahead. You tell her husband, you go ahead. Go and cook now, look at the door, I want to take a little rest. And you end up looking at those materials. And you do it a few times in the week, a few times in the month, and you never stop. You have an obsession. And those who experience obsessive compulsive behavior, you should know that is categorized or it falls under the mental disorder. Why am I going this way? To let you know that it is not only him nor her who has a mental disorder. I might have one. My son might have one. My daughter, my wife, me, I might be experiencing such. When he is telling me I am in a category of a mental disorder, yes, I'm saying that. You're just not stopping. And you continue going on and you keep getting gratification, joy, and pleasure. Because it has this pleasure element in it. So let it be known, I'm saying, if you didn't stop, or if you have not stopped over a period of time, you are considered to be in a category of those who have OCD. You will end up being depressed after a while. Some of the consequences of watching upon over and over and over again. Sometimes your sight, your ability to see, it starts diminishing because you have the phone and the computer so close, and you always, every opportunity you get, you have been good on. And you have the opinion, because remember, those movies were orchestrated in such a way to captivate and to draw your attention to the extent that you cannot escape. And if we continue looking at it, we might become more and more stressed out and more depressed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Holy Quran, chapter 24, verse 30 and 31. Guard your eyes, lower the gaze. Lower the gaze don't mean from here to here. It could be move away so, look up, look all over. Lower the gaze. And just after this ayat of Quran, Allah says, protect your private parts. Is it that whatever happens with your private parts starts with your eyes? Yeah? You see something and then you become aroused. The Muslim must become more disciplined. One great poet in Islam says, it begins with a look, followed by a smile, coupled with a shake head, then a handshake, and then a warmth in bed. So where it starts? From the eyes, looking. The Quran is marvelous. The Quran didn't say protect your private parts and then lower your gaze. Lower your gaze in order that you protect your private parts. Pornographic viewing has its undertakings. You look with your eyes, you hear with your ears, the brain will process. You're going to take your hand and close the door. You might walk to see if anybody is looking. So your eyes, your ears, your brain, your feet, your mind, 1,500 years ago, In the desert, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that every aspect of adultery is measured. 1500 years ago, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the mercy of mankind. Hear what he says about adultery. Those who look, when we look with the eyes and what you see. Those who hear, you're going to hear sound, background sound that's going to arouse you. Those who use their two hands, we're going to use their hand to put on the internet and to switch it off. And maybe to put on a password. Those who use their feet, to walk to that room, that lonely place where nobody sees. Just imagine 1500 years ago, no internet, no TV, no phone. An unlettered man knew that a time will come where adultery will have all its facets, with the eyes, with the ears, with the brain, with the heart yearning, with the heart yearning. When we say the heart yearning, it is an element of addiction. It is an element of OCD. When your heart yearns, OCD has two separate dimensions. The first, O means obsessive. And the other part, compulsive. You see, it's compulsive. And the D is the disorder. Obsessive is when you have that yearning in the heart, in the brain, in the mind, and it goes on and on and on. I can't wait until mommy and daddy goes to work to look at boy, or when husband or wife leaves. You have that yearning, and the thoughts keep recurring in your mind. But your mind and your brain and your heart is not your full embodiment. You have your physical embodiment, which is your feet. What controls your feet? It is your heart, your mind, and your soul. Those agents control the physical embodiment. So imagine something is going on in your brain over and over again. I know of a guy, number of years ago, he was a barber in trim. And he was an alcoholic. And one day going for a trim, I see him running, going up the road with the trimmer. So I said, where are you going? He said, leave me. So I went, waited for him. His wife came out. I said, where you went? He went to sell the trimmer. But he paid $3.50 for, it's cheap now, to buy a drink of rum for $5. So when the taste of the alcohol keep, in your mind, then it controls the foot to run up the road and sell it. When the joy of wanting to look at these things come, you make all kind of excuse to go in your room and to look up. This is very dangerous. You know why? You lose your mind, you lose your brain, you lose your heart, and your foot and your hand. It is now controlled by the pornographic material, is now controlled by the alcohol, is now controlled by the marijuana, is now controlled by the cocaine, and you have lost your whole self. What a sad day in the life of a human being when you could lose your whole self. Intimacy 2777. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that what is made forbidden for you, which is looking once, should not be done for the second time. But then I have my phone looking at porn for hours. The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, if you look at something once and it is forbidden, do not look back. But you're looking at it for hours and hours and hours. I dealt with a young woman once who had an addiction to porn. So she asked me, what shall I do? And I'm really glad you all have this session. And I will perhaps share with some things we can do, which might be the more interesting part of today. If any one of you all here are victims of this disease, do not believe that the disease is only a virus. This is a more devastating disease because you go to my doctor and get some medication, you have a rash with the virus, you're going to get good in a few days. But this that is embedded in your mind and your brain and your heart, that controls your feet, it's a disease. And if anybody here happens to be a victim of it, listen well. Remember, on the two shoulders, there is a tape recorder who is recording you, every of you, eye, ears, what you see. And the same vividness by which you look at it, live will be played back on the day of judgment. And you cannot deny it because your hands, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, on the day of judgment, your hands and your eyes and your ears and your feet will go against you to testify if you're doubting anything that you're allowed to do. So just think about judgment day when you put on the phone or the computer. I told the young woman, I said I wanted to start. If somebody comes to you, it's a good sign. And it's a good sign if we can admit that we have a problem. I said, start leaving your door open. When the door is closed, it's easier. Start leaving the door open. I grew up in a home, 7 of us, 7 children. I'm not saying to do that now. But I can't remember my father and mother door remaining closed. All over the night when we feel cold, we used to just run in and jump between the father and mother. Father's belly was bigger than mine. You know, the big belly, it's warm in the night. So when we feel cold, we just run, But today, the Muslim family has been influenced by Western custom. And everybody to their own room. And it is inside that room that a lot of things, not only pornographic viewing, but maybe if we meet another time, I'm going to tell you some other things that are happening in that closed room. When a child locks from inside, and if you want to go inside of your own daughter's room by 11-year-old, you got to get permission to go in. Ya Allah, the world has changed. Something for us to look at. When you look at those girls in those movies, videos, pornographic videos, picture one of them being your sister. Your blood sister. And perhaps your niece, and perhaps your mother, perhaps your daughter. a mother was looking at some of these videos, and she saw her daughter. I repeat, a mother was looking at some of these videos, and she saw her daughter. She committed suicide days after. When you have your boys and your girls locked away in that room, a whole life is lived. A whole person is developed. And then once again, if you have a strained relationship, not all, but a lot of us as parents and parents, we have strained relationship with our children. We have strained relationship. And when asked how long this girl have been filming these movies, 6 years. You're a mother and you didn't know 6 long years. This is very, very painful. If you want to get help to come out of it, think about death. Al-Maut. Think about death. I am in a coffin and there are people saying a few words, they read my janaza, and then they're taking me to a place in a hole, a deep hole. And they are lowering me down, and as they lower me down in this hole, I see like the walls getting taller and taller. I am going down and the walls are getting higher and higher and taller. And then they put some board, and dead people do see, according to Islam. That's why when you bathe in the dead, don't say anything wrong, they see. Allah permits them to see, they just can't talk. For the janaza also, don't go a distance and say anything bad about the dead. There are dangerous consequences. You get a lot of punishment for this. And around the whole, the dead seeing everything, the board. And then it becomes completely dark. Completely dark, and then you're alone. Which one of you all here right now thinking about YouTube or TikTok? Was death. The more you think about it, the more it takes you away, moves you away from this disease. Get back yourself. Sometimes when we beat ourselves, men and women, I am my man, I am my woman. I have my life to live. How you know you live in your life? How you know the porn and the alcohol and the weed not controlling you? How you know who you are? That's a topic of the next discussion. Knowing who you are. It's nice to know who you are. It's nice to know all your strengths, and it's nice to know all your weakness. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, and I will close, when you try every single thing to stop, including going for professional help, and Trinidad, I should say this, I'm not sure in this part of the world like to get help for help. We blame this one, we blame that one, we pull our cutlass, we cuss all night, but I go and sit down with somebody professional. I'm not sure if it is a custom, but we could try. We could try it. The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, when everything fails, if you're a young man or a young woman and you could get married, get married. I spoke to a woman, well, a woman this morning. Just, conversation. So I said, when you invited me to eat some roti, she said, I'm 1 year again. I said, how old are you? She said, 25. She said it has become the norm to get married at 26, and that is true for a lot of homes in Trinidad, including the Muslim home. Including the Muslim home. And the critical area here, the critical age is between the 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. You have the means, you found someone. What's the key back? Well, I need to live my life. I am too young. And within that period, all types of things happen. For the boy, let me live my life. Let me go and do A, B, C, D, E. For the girl, let me live my life. Let me go and do A, B, C, D, E. You know what I'm speaking about. So when I get married, I'm sidetracking here a bit, you discover that the boy had a girlfriend A, B, C, D, E. You discover that a girlfriend and a boyfriend D, E, F, G, H. They started to argue, you didn't tell me. She was telling you, didn't tell me that you had so much friends. And then you're gonna attack me. Well, I heard you had friends too. They will start arguing. This time, you would have committed fornication. Fornication so many times. The Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is telling all of us, to our parents and grandparents, that daughter of yours, that son of yours, when they reach the age, and the age is not 26. The age is not 26. Even though the government reduced the age to 17, 18. I'm a marriage officer and I forgot. 18. We live in Trinidad, we have to follow the law, so we are locked up. Even though they have reduced that age. But as Muslims, we know Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says that three most important things. You should never wait until tomorrow, next week, next year. Somebody dies. Very, very quickly. The azan is called, pray immediately. And when your boy and your girl reaches that age, when they reach that age, marry them. 1,500 years ago is wisdom we are hearing today. 1,500 years after, marry them. And I want to say this, sidetracking again. At 18, no, at 16, no, at 15, you meet this boy, you like this boy, 2% of your heart gone. Well, you dump him. And then meet the next boy at 16. 5% of your heart gone. 5% of the love gone. At 18, you want to get married, mommy said no, daddy said no, too young. 20% gone. Head over heel, that's what you realize. 20, well, the parents don't like that boy, get another one. When they reach the age of 26, 50% of the love from your heart is gone. So when you get married, and I have to say this, it's all linked to the topic. When you get married, and I say this with a sense of conviction, people today who are getting married don't love as much as people who get married back then. Because when you're going down, where am I living? Charleville, you go to Shaguanas, you and your wife or your husband walking down the road and see this girl pass, and you look back. Your heart's at the beat a little. That was one of your girls. Yeah. Why heart beating so addicted? And only night, oh my God, they're looking at the phone to see if you can say, I see her, they're looking very beautiful because the love is still there. That 100% that was supposed to be given to the husband and the wife is today. It's something to look at. Then the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, if conditions do not necessitate you to get married, then fast. It might sound very punitive, but fast. fast and have patience. Salatu was sabr, salat, and your fast and your patience, you're going to meet the right girl at the right time. Before I take my seat, being here, I am exceedingly happy. And coming here for the first time, I want to make an offer to this Jamaat. Some months ago, I've conducted a one-day workshop issuing certificates in Macomb Street. I think I saw some of your sisters and brothers there. There were 268 participants. And sometime, I think it was last year, at the auditorium of the Center Point Mall, I did a public speaking, certificate program with about close to 300 persons. I want to offer something to this Jamaat. I've not met the Amir and met one or two of the brothers. If it is your will and your wish, get 150 persons. Maybe 5 sessions, 5 2-hour sessions, 5 3-hour sessions. Let me blend psychology and counseling, professional psychology with Islam. And graduate 150 persons, up to the Imam alone. How to deal with somebody in the Muslim community who is LGBTQ, who is a gay or lesbian. How to counsel them. And secondly, second topic would be if somebody who is addicted to porn needs help. Do we have the personnel, the trained personnel to do so? I'm not too sure. To train this contingent of people to sit with and work with these people. And the third topic will be stress, loneliness, depression, and suicide among the Muslims. Last week I went and did a janazah for a 16-year-old sister who committed suicide. And a mother called 1,000 persons to speak to her, and she couldn't get one. Let me make this offer to this Muslim community here in Central. And you can open your wings and facilitate other people of different interests in Islam. I want to also say that I have my religious affiliation, but when I'm in gathering like this, I go all over Trinidad. I'll be going on a world tour shortly to about 8 countries in the West. You will never and will not know my Islamic affiliation. That is personal. I put Muslims first. I put the Quran first, the Sunnah first. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us and forgive us. So we want to spend a few minutes for questions. Just want to probably add one or two quick things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, beautiful Fatiha. And in other places, one of the verses you hear every single Friday on the khutbah is, in Allah ya'amuru bil adli wal ihsan wa ita'i bil qurba wa yanil wa anil fahsha. Fahsha means the high forms of indecency and lewdness and so on. And the scholars of Quran are of the view that in a particular surah of Quran, when Allah used this in chapter number 7, verse 83, He implies things like pornography. Like the Imam, myself being a married counselor, I've had situations where people come before me, a husband and a wife, and sometimes I'll say, who will start first? And she will say, well, let me start. My husband is hooked on pornography, he doesn't even sleep with me in the night time. So it's a Muslim issue as well. It's not just a Trinidad issue, it's a Muslim issue. We will open for questions. If we could keep the questions topic related, feel free to raise your hand and ask the question. The Imam will answer, inshallah. Okay. Question time. Question time. How do we get help? Please.
So I think it's one of those questions where you have to be a bit more conscious of what terms are being used, right? But Alhamdulillah, you gave a lot of statistics, you put an ayat, gave practical tips, tips to Quran and Sunnah in relation to this topic of pornography. And from what I understand, there's also still doing pornography. Right? Might be most often by 2 or 3 times by yourself. So I was kind of wondering, is there anything to add in relation to that action, or is there anything additional that you would like to share in relation to that action?
Not sure if I understand. Let's go ahead.
So some persons who get involved in pornography
Right.
tend to accompany going with an action.
Oh, sorry.
To satisfy the urge.
All right. Thank you. When you examine what the Quran and the Hadith says, it says that a lot of it starts with the looking, the viewing. And I explained that it sends off a secretion in the brain called dopamine, which causes that to get you to be happy too, like if somebody smile back and so on, if you get a hug from your father and mother. So when you look at those things, it causes you to become aroused. And the next best, or the next thing that you end up doing is the masturbation. Okay, they want to see it. That is normally something that's obvious. I wanted to touch on it, but we did have the question that I know somebody will ask. One follows the other. Okay? With these little girls and boys in front, I have to say that when you're being aroused and you commit that act, we call it commit that act. You commit that act, you might get a degree of gratification that you might believe there is no need for your wife or your husband. That's serious thing in Islam. Pornography is very, very serious. One leads to the other, and the other is like a replacement for that with your husband and your wife. And I've had, people coming to see me who are OCD, obsessed with this. And the wife will complain, well, what's going on? The husband will also complain, well, what's going on? Is masturbation allowed in Islam? Manuel? It's a hard question to answer. I heard Mufti Bang say it's makruh. I'm sorry, Dr. Zakir Naik, sorry. MashaAllah. We don't really quote from scholars as such. But Imam Shafi says that based on the Quranic injunction that to lower your gaze, then guard your private parts, then in Tirmidhi, the Prophet ﷺ says, if you look once and it is categorized as forbidden, do not look and continue looking. And they're weighing a lot from a lot of hadith of the Prophet ﷺ and a lot of Quranic injunction. And Imam Shafi says it is haram. Coupled with that, the Quran speaks about, it's like this. The end product of watching pornography is masturbation. So if you didn't see the word masturbation, it's like beating your wife. You may not see that in the Quran. Well, yeah, there is. Do not slap her. I'm just using an example. It might come from drinking alcohol. The root of all of this, the root is mentioned in the Quran, which is using your eyes for gratification. And we know what is found in the Quran is from Allah. And I've quoted 3 hadiths this afternoon 2 from Bukhari, and 1 from Tirmidhi, I prefer to quote the authentic hadith so you will not chastise me. So if Allah is speaking from the Quran and the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and then we get a renowned scholar at the time of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Imam Shafi, then we have the consensus which says that masturbation is haram. Thank you, Ben. You got there? Very good. So I use the term that you. Next question, your talk, big fire.
Like, like you love the crowd too much.
You have any shake yet?
I think this is our Alexander country.
Yeah, well, brilliant. Mine here. Speaking about the women of gender, you know, there's this wonderful description with their beauty and their age. Women know age and gender. And yeah, they are very beautiful, you know, angelic. So you see, the Quranic injunction applies to all types of arousal. If you didn't get married, marry. And if you can't, well, fast. Did you get aroused at that time? And sometimes too, it might sound very unconventional. Moving away from where you are, taking a cold bath, making some zikr, doing something different, you know, to change the thought from your mind might work temporarily. Right? But how old are you? I assure you in a few years when you get that right choice, you won't think about those deals and the other thing. Yeah, 1 more year. Imam giving you 1 year in marriage officer. Any other question from the sisters? Brother Hatim?
Assalamu alaikum. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made us the best of creators. But we are saying that we are falling short in so many different aspects of our family and social life. Marriage, divorce, and etc. What are the causes? Why are we falling short? Number one. Second question, I think the statistics you put may be on the western part of the world, right? Right. So could we compare statistics of Muslim land and see if there's a correlation?
I did. I started off by saying there are 5.19 billion internet users, 35% of them use them, of this 5.19. And then I said for the Muslim community, studies were done. It showed that 59% of young Muslim men and women uses pornography. 83 are males and 17 are females. To answer your question, we have the best religion, best book, best Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It boils down to, well, this is not related, but I'll quickly answer it. It boils down to Iman. Iman. And if anybody here, Iman is very high, when you hear what the Quran and the Sunnah says, it's going to hit you. So what about if the Iman is 5%? I'm just asking. That will not interest you. And I want to say this is the significance of professional counseling and professional psychology, where we can use, Manuel, we could all use all these different philosophies and ideas to help you who do not have Iman. Because Iman going to work with, if when after hearing these things, you know, it's high in your heart and your mind, you're conscious of Allah, you're going to listen and you're going to follow. But if it is weak, no. And I want to say this, that there is a growing population of Muslims in Trinidad who are leaving Islam and going to other religions, a growing amount from the different Jamaat, a growing amount. And I have been, interviewing these young people and asking them, why do you leave Islam and go to those other religions? They love it. I say, why? It's very forgiving. When you hear those people make presentations about their religion, that their Lord is forgiving, their Lord is loving, their Lord is this, it kind of captivates the attention. I know of I know of religious leaders on the other side in the United States of America as the largest assembly for the week, 65,000 people on a Sunday. And a lot of them were Muslims going over there. And I want to say it has a lot to do with our preaching. I'll give you an example. I can't remember when last I talked about that. I can't remember when last I talked about punishment in the grave. I can't remember when last I spoke about punishment in the hellfire. I prefer to give a khutbah on what heaven looks like. I prefer to give a khutbah on forgiveness. Well, let's say your sins could be as much as from here to the sky, left to right as far as you can see. You turn to him sincerely, he's going to forgive you and accept you. I prefer this type of preaching. And I want to say, as I speak about Iman, sometimes the preaching that we preach in the middle of COVID, where your father died, neighbor, you're going through all the stress, and you go to a place of worship in Islam and you hear about punishment in the grave, and your mother just died from COVID. Sometimes I think we need to reorient and touch the hearts of those who Iman is 5%, brother, and 10% and 15%. Next question, sister. Walaikum Assalam.
Or the what you go for more time younger girls, or maybe even more. Yeah. And then it's kind of expensive.
Why do Asian brothers prefer to look at younger sisters in real and YouTube? Declining in nature means, you mean, right. She said declining in nature. We are very sensitive people, they don't want to say again, but declining in nature, right? Well, you have to remember it's a sort of a compensation. To feel what you are not able to do. And you look at, this is the nafs in the mind. And that is a woman too, right? That is the perspective. Sure. Well.
Now we have a few more minutes to take first question.
Manuel and his sisters appear. Experienced Imam, he was a student of mine, so he goes with him.
So I've been put in a spot, but this is what my knowledge is based on, again, my experience in counseling. The older men, generally speaking, look for much younger girls to marry. I think the reason for that, most of the time they're going downhill. The family allowed to use that right, that point. They're going downhill. That's what you're saying, right? So in order to give them some excitement, and that is why too, I'm comparing it with the subject matter tonight. They even look at pornography to excite them and to get them going on to it. The thing is that I'm sure that Dr. Hassan will correct me on that. It does not change the fact that they have a problem. It might be medical, it might be physical, it might be other things that cause them to be in that situation. And many a time they're not attending to the problem, or they don't realize they have a problem, or they accept they have a problem, but all they're thinking about, I need to be excited a bit, I need to get going, I need to do something about it. So you look for somebody much younger to marry or to have, because you know they can't go and commit adultery, and they want somebody younger to marry, or they can get into pornography. The life crisis, good, mashallah.
Compete with the industry because it's a $1 trillion industry. We have to do, like I tell you, the parents, not the college, kids get married and support most youngsters together, and then we can work together in college. Time for college, you plan to marry them. Let them get married and support them. What's up supporting the married couple? That way you get rid of all infection or temptation or whatever. But once the desire is fulfilled, then they can stay focused on the priority, which is the providing for a family, house, or whatever. So we change our mindset that scenario, those thoughts, areas that we need to invest in. But we should think of, I think, both, both parents parties together. I think that's what we should prioritize tonight. I don't know.
Thanks. Let me just wind up here, inshallah. The other is already called. I want to graciously thank you for attending, number one. And those of you who attended all of the sessions for the last 4 weeks, I want to graciously thank Imam Hassan for joining all the way from town to come to the masjid and make his presentation. He has a private practice. So those of you who know people have addictions like these, anonymously, you can in fact, we can share his numbers and you can in fact call him and he could spend time with you. 337, tell me, 337-8827. I want to finish with a couple stories. Inshallah, we have a more series coming up. people on the social media. Number one, Quran school, boys memorizing Quran. And this sheikh has given a story of boys memorizing Quran. This is a remote area. Phones are charged once a week and given to the boys. And they have some time with the phone. And they found that these boys were going privately. They thought they were going to do Quran. These boys in a remote area learning Quran were in fact looking at pornography. Internet was only for a little bit of time in this particular area, short window, and they were looking at porn. Secondly, the Sheikh is saying people come to him with pornography addictions and pornography too. It starts with soft, it migrates to hard, and eventually they start to, it doesn't give them the excitement anymore. They have to move to something else. And they move to same-sex porn, or they move to bestiality, because they have to move to the excitement to a next level and a next level. May Allah save us from that. And the last thing is that our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is important, my brothers and sisters. Our attention to Quran is important. Allah says, وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ, whoever of you has the taqwa of Allah, we connect to him, يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا, Allah will give us a way out from all the difficulties. We have to stop now. The time for Aisha is there. There's some refreshments after. Inshallah, Jazakumullahu khairan. Look out for more series coming up, inshallah. If not at this masjid, we have other venues. And may Allah reward all of you for coming out and for coming for all of the other sessions, inshallah. Jazakumullahu khairan. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Those of you who need to speak